In this video we're going to cover how to make 3 different types of attacks for the character. First we're going to start off with the Mario style jump on their head and you defeat the enemy that way. Then we're going to go into the hand-to-hand combat where the guy has, let's say, a sword or some kind of object that he's holding, and that when its sprite changes it causes damage to the enemy. And option 3, we're going to cover how to make a projectile weapon, let's say a gun, and so the bullet will get created, fly across the screen, and get destroyed when it hits the enemy. So we'll cover those 3 types of attacks in this tutorial. To start off with, I already did one of the attacks. I put a sprite in here for the left attack, or I guess the right direction. So you can see here, if I show the preview, let's slide it over a bit more. You can see he's attacking at a really fast speed. Let's do 6 frames. So he swings and creates a sword swipe. So I have the attack sequence in there. We'll get back to that one. Let's see jumping on the character first. So everything, or a lot of stuff, most of it's going to be in the character object. So we're going to go to this one. And let's see. And we can either put the collision on the main character himself, or we can switch to the enemy itself. In this case, if you want to put all your enemy or all the coding on the main character, you could do that for all the enemy collisions. Or if you don't want to use the enemies throughout the whole game, you could just code the attacks on the enemies. So we'll actually switch over to that. So we'll do the bat following, since that's the closer one. So here's his usual step event for what he's doing, but we'll just put a collision on there. So when he collides with the main character, and so the code's going to be backwards because we're putting it on the bat instead of on the character, but either way, what we're going to do for the jumping event is go to the control tab and drop on one of these if an expression is true. And this expression we're going to say the character's name, which is character underscore left, but this again will change to whatever the name of your character is. So if your character is object 1, then it's going to be called object 1, but my character is called character left. So character left dot v speed, which is the vertical speed, so it tells if he's falling in the air or not. So if the v speed of the character is greater than 0, so if there's a speed, then he's falling. Again, or if this collision was on the character himself and not on the bat, then I wouldn't need character left. The character left dot is just telling the vertical speed of that object. But if this was just if this was on the character himself, then this would just be v speed because it's taking the v speed of the character. But since I don't want to take the v speed of the bat, I need to have to tell it, go to grab the character's v speed. So if his v speed is greater than 0, and usually for coding you have double ands or other stuff like that, and again character left dot y is less than y. Alright, so if the character's vertical speed is greater than 0, which means he's falling, and character's y is greater than his y, which means in the height elevation, or less than, he's higher up, then that should read as he's moving vertically and his y is touching or less than the other guy's y, so he's going to be falling on the guy. So we press OK for that. So one last time, that was basically v speed is greater than 0 and y is less than y. But the character left was added in there because this was put on the bat's code. So press OK to that. And so if this expression is true, then we'll take on the trash can right here, which is under the main 1 tab, and destroy the instance, destroy self. Self would be because it's on the bat. If you were putting this on the character, you would switch this to other and say destroy other, which would be the bat. But since the code's on the bat, it's destroy self. So if the character jumps on the bat, it's destroying the bat. So So let's try that. And this is the bat following, so it's the closer one. So we'll press OK. And I coded the jump button to be spacebar, so the bat's going to follow me by normal. There's nothing to hurt me yet. But if I jump on the bat, he gets destroyed when I land back down. So if I try that again and run back over to the bat, if I land on him, he gets destroyed because my vertical speed coming down and my vertical speed was greater and my y was less than him. And negatives are the up direction. So if my up was less than his up, then it takes him out. So that's the jumping. So that's pretty simple if you just want to have your character jump on enemies. You can also adjust this depending on which position the Y. You can put like Y is less than or minus some more or plus some more, like minus 24 pixels, and so it would kind of adjust how or when the collision point's occurring. So that's how the jumping aspect works. Let's go for the sword swinging. Sword swinging I'm going to put on the character because he's the one using the swing, so we need the spacebar or whatever button to occur to work with the character. For the character I'm going to use, let's say let's go with shift because it's a big button to push. We'll do key press because I don't want to be able to hold the shift key and have him constantly swing his sword. I want to be able to press it once, so until you release it and press it again, the sword's only going to happen once. So when we have the shift key pressed, the first thing is we want to change his sprite to the left attack on the right direction. And I'll play image index to play his whole animation, and speed of 1 should be fine. So he's going to play the attack sequence. And let's play that so you can see what happens at that point. So if I press shift, he'll swing his sword. However, he's going to keep swinging his sword, and that's a problem. If you keep pressing left and right, he'll stop, but if you attack, he's going to keep swinging his sword. And we haven't coded any damage, so that's not going to affect him at all. But he won't stop swinging his sword. So we need to make sure he stops swinging his sword. If you're only going to do one frame, actually even with one frame, you're still going to have to stop the sword. So we're going to set an alarm for this. So we're going to go over to main 2, the tab right there, and grab timing, and we're going to drop an alarm. What an alarm will do is set how long that the attack will be allowed to go for. So number of steps, I'm going to pick 6 because that's 6 frames of the animation that I know is how long it needs to repeat. But if your attack is just 1 frame long, then you might as well just pick 1, 2, or 3 steps. It's by 30th of a second. So this is 6/30ths of a second. And this is going to be called alarm 0, but I can pick lots of different alarms. But alarm 0 is fine for what I need. So number of steps 6, alarm 0, and press OK. So now I've created an alarm, but now I need to tell what the alarm is. So I'm going to go to add event and create the actual alarm 0. So alarm 0. So when you press the shift key, it sets the alarm, and now it knows what alarm 0 is. So on alarm 0, when alarm 0 starts, we need to know we need to basically tell him to stop the sprite create, or to stop swinging his sword. So if we do, let's say, let's go idle. We'll go put him on idle. So sub image, or is image index speed of 0.25. Alright, so when the alarm 0 goes off, it'll change the sprite to the idle position, which should work perfectly fine. Let's press play, and it swings his sword, and it stops. Swings his sword, and it stops. Sometimes there's glitches where he doesn't quite swing his sword perfectly. You might see like a little jitter depending on how many frames you have. If you have enough frames, you might see it, but if it's a 1-frame attack, you probably won't see it. To correct for that, you could always do image index equals 0 colon or semicolon image index. This will set your your frame to be 0 and then play the animation. This should fix any glitches in his attacks. So press OK and try that. Boom. So he should always start on frame 1 when he attacks. So you don't have any more glitches in his attack. He's always swinging from start to finish. And I don't have to worry about him constantly swinging because it sets it to finish. Alright, so that's changed sprite into idle. However, the problem is, what if he did the attack in the left direction and the alarm 0 will always turn him to the right direction? So we need to figure out which direction he's facing. So one option to do that is to set a variable. So we'll check if sprite index is equal to, let's say, left attack R. So if he's in the middle of swinging to the right, then put our brackets in there, then change him to the right idle position. So this can check with this equation what sprite index is playing. Is it the walking? Is it the walking right, walking left? Is it the attack right? It'll check which sprite is currently in use, and it'll change it to the needed idle, left or right idle. So this method works pretty well. However, there's also the other problem with what if he's doing like a sword swing in the air? Well, that might be a different attack sprite. Or what if he's facing left, and you have to keep constantly checking these things. Or what if he has a different type of attack? So you have to keep checking for lots of different attack sprites. So if you're only doing one simple attack, then this option works. Alternatively, we could do another option, which I'll show you coming up. But this more or less will check and work. So we press Shift, and he'll swing to the right. However, if he's facing to the left, we need to just have him swing to the left direction. So how do we tell it that also? So again, we have to go tell it which sprite. Is it the idle sprite facing right, or is the idle sprite facing left? And again, is it the what if it's the left walking sprite or the left or the right walking sprite? There's too many different sprites to keep checking, so we don't want to go with the other option, which was check the sprite index. There's a much easier method of doing this, and once we've defined it, it'll save us the steps for all the other coding we have to do later. So we're going to do something called set a direction. So when you press the right key, we're going to set a variable, and this variable is going to be, I'm going to call it dir for direction, and call it, let's say 1 is to the right. So when you press the right key, his direction is 1. Okay, and let's go to the left. So when you press the left key, his dir will become 0. So he has a 0 and 1 value. For values, it's usually a numeric value, but you can switch them in certain cases, like we do the sprite index, because it's picking a variable within the program. So I could call it all the way out direction if I wanted to, but I'm going to abbreviate it just for quick typing. So I'm going to call it dir value of 0. All right. If you're going to set a variable, you have to have it on creation, because it's going to be like, well, I don't know what it was when I first started. So if I were to press play now, and you go to press right and left, sometimes when variables, in this case it doesn't seem to be doing that, but sometimes it asks, what was the variable originally? If it's going to set it to something now, well, what was it before I set it? So in this case, it doesn't seem to matter if you put it in the creation mode up front. Usually, I guess that matters if it checks it. So we're going to do press Shift. So we're going to say if dir is equal to 1, because he's facing to the right. So if it's equal to 1, then do that. In either case, the alarm will go off, so we'll just put that outside of the brackets. So we need the alarm to go off no matter what. So if direction is equal to 1, we'll do that. And then again, if dir is equal to 0, then we'll do the same thing, except we'll set the other sprite to the left direction for the attack. But I don't have a left sprite, I have to go and flip that around, which I could do real quick. I'll right click, duplicate, call this left attack left, so he's attacking the left direction. We'll go edit sprite, transform, mirror flip, flip him horizontally, apply to all images, and we're good. So now he has a left swinging direction. So now I can take this sprite and drop it in there and call this, set this to attack left. Image index speed of 1. Alright, so he's attacking left. So again, this is saying if his direction is 1, then he's doing a right attack. If it's 0, then he's doing a left attack. In this case, it'll probably give me an error. If I press the attack button, which is shift, it'll say, well, I don't know what direction he was originally because you never told me which direction he was. So that's what I was referring to earlier with on creation. You need to set a variable before you can check it. So because he's going to start facing the right direction, which actually, instead of starting with the walk right, I might as well start with the idle position when he on creation. So we need to go to set variable, which means I don't need that sprite anymore. And we're going to call this dir is equal to 1, because he's going to be facing the right direction when he starts, so let's put him dir equals 1. And I don't need the sprite because I just changed it to idle right there. Before the sprite was just saying, actually just saying idle, so it's at 0.25, slowing it down. Alright, so direction is set to 1, so we know he's facing that, and when I press the attack button, he'll swing that direction. And if I turn this direction, actually I never did a left idle sprite, but he'll face that direction, except that I never told this one to stop because alarm 0 doesn't know what to do yet. Because alarm 0 only knows what to do with the left attack right. So I could copy this whole thing and do a left attack left, or I can change this to dir is equal to 1. Then he's going to change into the right idle sprite. And then copy and paste. And if dir is equal to 0, which means he's facing left, then this should be the left idle, but I never, again, made a left idle sprite. If I want to go and duplicate this one, call this idle left, edit sprite, transform, mirror flip, horizontal, okay. So now I have a left idle. Press OK, so now this one can be left idle. Alright, so if the direction is equal to 0, then he'll use the left idle. If direction is equal to 1, he'll use right idle. On creation, we know his direction is going to start at 1. When you press right, he's going to turn, the direction will be 1. When you press left, his direction will be 0. So we have the directions defined. So this will make it a lot easier for anything else later where he needs to know which direction he's facing. So if I press play now, if I walk left, actually I never changed that sprite. When you go to left, when I release the left key, I need to change him to idle facing left. Okay. Alright, so he walks that way, he walks this way, he stays that way, and I can, attack, and he knows to be facing that direction, and attack, he knows to be facing that direction. Alright, so that about covers just a regular swing, so all that coding for that, but now we need to worry about collision. So now again I can put the collision on the bat himself, or I can put it on the character. So I might as well put it on the bat, just put all the damage that occurs to the bat himself. So now we're going to check another expression. So we can go to control and check variable. So we can say again if the sprite underscore index is equal to one of his attacks, either the left attack or the right attack, then it'll cause damage. Or we could also create another variable to put him in attack mode or something, and that would work too. But in this case, it should work for this. So I'm going to say, if you're only having one attack, then this will work just fine. Left attack right. So if his sprite index So in collision with left, if this, actually we're going to need a, actually it should work like this. If the sprite index of left attack right is active, then we're going to where is it? System brackets in there, and then main one is destroy the self, because this is the bat. Alright, so nah, we're going to have to change that. So we're not doing sprite index of the bat because we're still in the bat mode. It is the character mode. So it would be character left dot sprite index. So we're referencing this character's sprite index because it's on the bat that we're on. If it was just on the character himself, we wouldn't need to put the left on there. Alright, so that's that. However, we also need to check for copy, paste, put that back there. We need to also say if its sprite index is equal to left. So if he's attacking you to the left direction, because we have 2, then destroy it. So if you jump on him, he gets destroyed. If the character's sprite index is equal to attack right, he gets destroyed. And if his sprite index is equal to attack left, the bat gets destroyed. So 3 different options now to destroy the bat. So if we press play, walk over to the bat. If I swing the sword facing the right direction, he just got destroyed. If I try this again and face this direction, he got destroyed again, because his sprite index, when he swings the sword, when that image occurs, it destroys the instance because it's checking for that. Alright, so that works now. So we have both options set. We have the attack right and the attack left. We have the walking left and right, and when we press shift, it knows which one to go to. If it's direction 1, it shows that one. Direction 0, it shows that one. Alarm 0. If the direction is 1, change it to idle. Direction 0, idle left. So the direction does make it a lot easier for all the different things that will occur later throughout the programming. The last type of attack now is creating a projectile weapon. So for the projectile weapon, we're going to go to, we're going to pick a new button. Let's try, let's go keyboard, key press, and because the, let's go with the Z key because it's right next to shift. It makes it easier for me to press both at once or next to each other. So when you press the Z key, and again, press is better than just a regular keyboard because you don't want to constantly send out a spray of bullets. So when you press the Z key, we're going to go, actually, we need a bullet first. So let's go create a sprite. Edit sprite, new one, 32 is fine. Okay, draw the circle. We'll make it a yellow circle. Let's try it again. Okay, really big yellow bullet. Okay, check, check. Okay. We'll call that bullet. And so we need a new object because we made a new sprite. We'll call this one bullet. We'll use the bullet symbol, and we'll come back to that later. Alright, so when you press the Z key, this time we're going to create a moving instance. So this is under main 1, create a moving instance. We're going to go to bullet, and so it's going to grab the image of the bullet, and now we have a bunch of numbers to plug in and figure out what we want to use. So we're going to say x is equal to x and y is equal to y. So this will be taking, if you use 0, 0, it's going to create in the top left corner of the screen because that's 0, 0. But if you say x and y, it's going to use the character's x and y position. So it's going to create it right on top of the character. It's going to leave at a speed of 4, and direction of 0 means it's going to go to the right. So when you press the Z key, he's going to get a bullet flying starting from him at a speed of 4 to the right direction. We press OK. And let's see what happens. So we press Z, and boom, the bullet starts flying out from a direction right across the screen and never actually stops. So we escape out of that. So that works pretty well. However, let's try it one more time. Let's say he's walking over here and he turns and then he fires. Well, it fires in the wrong direction. He should be firing to that direction. So we need to divide this again. So we need to say, just like we did before, if direction is one way, then do it one way. So control, check variable, if direction is equal to 0, and if direction is equal to 1, and put things in brackets, keep things a lot more organized. Let me create one more. Same thing. We're going to go with bullet x, y, speed of 4, direction of 180, which is the other direction. Alright, so if his direction is 0, which is to the left direction, the bullet will come out at 180, which is to the left, based on the protractor being 180 degrees is left and 0 degrees is right, and 90 is up and down. That should create a bullet in the other direction. So again, using directions and setting them from the beginning is usually really easy to keep track of things. So if I face this direction and press C, if I face that direction, I'll keep firing bullets whichever direction. Right now it's coming right off of his chest. You can set that to where the gun is by saying create instance, and let's say in this case we'll do 64, minus 64. Because he's facing left, we want it to be further to the left direction. And this one will say x plus 64. So that puts us 64 pixels further away from his x position. So it won't start directly on his chest. So if I press Z now, you can see it's starting right about where his sword is. So you can just guess and test and keep changing your plus X and plus Y to put the bullet starting right wherever you drew the gun. So it's not starting on his chest or his head or his feet. It starts right where his gun is. In this case, the sword. If I wanted to, I could also say play the sword swing, and that would look like he's shooting it off the sword if I wanted to. So let's say you wanted to try that. He's facing the right direction. We're going to play the sprite left attack to the right, image index, speed of 1 should be fine. So it's going to do the sword swing and then create the instance. We also needed to have him stop swinging the sword, so we're going to go back to put an alarm on it. And we're going to call this alarm, actually alarm 0 should be fine, because it's the exact same alarm. When this one goes off, it's going to put him back to the idle position. So we can just reuse the same alarm. So not that you need to change the sprite to have a reaction to shooting the gun, but if you wanted him to have smoke coming off his gun or some kind of impact, or the gun shaking out of his hands, or some kind of animation, which would be a good touch to add, that'll work. In this case, I'll have a sword swing. So he swings his sword, and every sword swing will create a bullet flying. So that's one way of doing that. So we have the bullet flying. Now we have to actually do something with the bullet. We'll say, let's see, we can put all the coding on the bullet itself, or we can put the coding on the bat again. So whichever option you want to do. I'm going to put it on the bat this time. Add event collision with the bullet. So when the bat collides with the bullet instead of the character, now what are we going to do? So it's just simple, destroy the self. So it'll destroy the bat. And press OK. So when the bullet collides with the bat, it destroys itself, which is the bat. So let's press play and attack, and the bullet goes across the screen and destroys the bat and never stops. So you probably don't want this indestructible bullet flying across your screen unless you really want that option. So we're going to have to put the destroy other as well. So the first option will destroy the self, which is the bat, because it's on the bat, and destroy the other, which is, in this case, the bullet. So it destroys both when they collide. So press OK on that and press play. Boom, bullet flies out, and boom, both get destroyed. So now we have that. One last thing to adjust is going to the bullet itself. As I mentioned earlier, once that bullet gets created, it never actually uncreates. It's going to be flying across the screen for the entire game until you at least finish the level and change rooms. It's never going to stop. And if you fire out 1,000 bullets, the game's still calculating 1,000 bullets in motion. So it'd be easier on the game mechanics and the speed of the game, I guess. Not that pixels matter too much, but you want it to destroy the bullet when it leaves the screen so it doesn't infinitely continue forever. So we're going to do add event, a step event. So every step of the way, every frame that is being created for, or not created, but every frame that's on the screen will check for something. So we're going to check for an expression this time. So we're going to type in something. This one can be a little more, a little complicated. So we're going to check x is greater than, or if x is greater than view underscore x view. So what this is saying, if the x position, which let's say this is our room right here, this little box, if the x is greater than the x view, which we define when we go to make views in the room, what the view of the room is. If the, let's say your view is 800 pixels, so this basically means 800, but instead of typing a number of 800, we're just going to let this number vary based on whatever number you set the room view at. But we also want to make sure it's bigger than just the view. We want to make sure it's view plus window view. So we need to make sure that the view on the screen plus the window view, so the size of the screen, so both of them combined. Otherwise, if you don't have either of these, it's going to destroy basically at a certain point in the screen. So if you walk past that point, then you'll never, the bullet will won't reach a destroy point, or it just already will be destroyed. So you need to have both of these options in here. Or you could set it to, let's say, 1,000. If your room is only 1,000, it's only ever going to be 1,000 no matter how many rooms you ever make, because you're only going to have 1,000 pixels. Then you could just say x is greater than 1,000. But in this case, the room sizes could vary, so I'm going to add both these options in there. I'm going to say, or if x is less than, and again, this could change also depending on what you want. If you wanted to have, let's say, if you want to go negative into your room, you might have to change to room views again. But I'm just going to put 0. So if x is less than 0, so 0 is always going to be the top left corner of the screen unless you make your screen a negative room size, which you probably wouldn't need to. So 0 should be fine. However, if I do 0, it's going to break as soon as it's the edge of the screen. I want it to go off the screen and then destroy, not destroy as soon as it hits the edge of the screen. So I'm actually going to put a negative in there. So negative 32, because it's 32 pixels big. You can put negative 100 if you wanted to, as long as it's off the screen. So this is saying, figure out how long the view is, the room and the view on the screen. Once it reaches that, destroy it. Or if you're firing in the left direction and it's less than 32, destroy it also. So you have left and right covered. We don't have up and down covers, so if he fires vertically, it's going to go forever, but you can't shoot vertically because I never programmed that. It doesn't matter. So if that expression is true, then go to and destroy self, because we're on the bullet. So destroy the bullet once it leaves the screen. So whether you understand all of this or not, just basically copy it down and it should be fine. X is greater than view x view plus view w view, or x is less than whatever your bullet size is. I'm just going to put 32. You could put 100 if you want. If so, then destroy the bullet. So that should settle everything now. So if the character fires his bullet, oops, that's the fire bullet button. It destroys the bat. If you fire it again, it'll go all the way and then leave the screen. And what we're not seeing is that the bullet got destroyed off the other side. So I can fire bullets from every direction. This one, he's just going to, bullet appears. This one, we coded the sword swinging to create the bullet. So you could have a gun or a sword effect doing something. And whenever these things collide with bats, it destroys them. Except for this bat right here, because this bat was never coded to react to a bullet. He is technically a different object. So if we go back and look at this, we have bat, bat flying, and bat following. So we have 3 different objects. So you'd have to put the same code and everything. So you'd have to copy all of this and this onto each different object, which makes sense if they looked differently. We just had the same image. But again, that would, whether you put the code here or on the character, you still have to code all the different enemies that are going to collide with. And that should cover the attacks. So a quick review, we have the regular jump attacks. So he jumps up and lands and they get destroyed if you want to go with that option. Let's add an event real quick. Let's add key press, enter, and we're going to do restart game. So when I press the enter, it just restarts my game so I don't have to keep closing it every time. So press play. So over here, jump on them, boom, enter, restarts my game. Over here, shift key will swing my sword, destroys the bat. If I go further to this side and turn, shift key destroys it and it goes back to idle position. So whichever direction he's swinging, he'll return back to the idle position. And the last option, actually it looks like sometimes the jerky position where he twitches, instead of using the image index equals 0, sometimes it might also be that the frame rate isn't right. So it might need to be something like set the alarm when you press the shift key, set that to 5 frames. That might make a difference, so you might have to play with that a little bit to figure out which option works better. So now we shouldn't have that extra twitch at the end. And it looks like it fixed it. So we have the attacks, and then the last one is, oops, didn't need to do that, is the bullets. So he swings and fires the bullets. And it looks like this one never was fixed on the glitch. We never put image index equals 0 for that one, so it has the glitch still. So we have the bullets flying, we have the regular sword attack, and we have the jump on their heads. And that would be 3 different types of flying, or attacks.